All right, so today we are going deep on Sedona, Arizona. Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah, of course. The Red Rocks, right.
Exactly. That and the art scene. And maybe some mystical energy?
Yeah, I've heard about that too, like a new age spiritual kind of vibe.
Yeah, we've got this travel guide, and it's packed with all sorts of tips and stuff.
Cool.
So we're going to dive into that. We're going to figure out what's really going on.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. So the guide starts off by, talking about how Sedona is this small city, but it has a huge impact.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it draws like over 3 million visitors every year.
Wow. 3 million. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, for a place that has a permanent population of only about 10,000 people.
That's crazy. So I guess tourism is a pretty big deal there.
Yeah, they say it brings in over $1 billion every year.
Wow, $1 billion.
Yeah. So, obviously we have to talk about where to stay.
Yeah,
Right,
of
Maria?
course, yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you recommend?
Well, the guide has a few different options for different budgets.
Okay, let's hear it.
So for luxury, there's this place called a Sunset Chateau.
A sunset chateau.
Yeah, and it sounds incredible. Kitchenettes, pool, mountain views, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But what about something a little less expensive?
Right. Well, for mid-range, the guide recommends the Arabella Hotel Sedona.
Okay, what's that like?
It's got free breakfast, which is always nice, and a hiking trail right on the property.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to get in your car to start exploring.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
And then for budget, they suggest the Desert Quail in Sedona at Bell Rock.
Okay.
Yeah, spacious rooms, easy access to attractions, free parking, all the essentials.
All right, so we got our lodging sorted out. Now, what about things to do?
Well, there's a lot to cover, but I have to ask you, have you heard anything about Sedona's art scene?
A little bit, yeah. I've heard it's pretty vibrant.
Yeah, it seems like it's more than just your typical touristy stuff. Yeah. The guide says there are galleries with everything from modern psychedelic art to traditional Native American art.
Oh, wow, that's pretty diverse.
Yeah, a real mix. And they specifically highlight this place called Tlaquepaque Arts and Shopping Village.
Tlaquepaque, what's that?
Apparently, it's designed to feel like a traditional Mexican market.
Oh, interesting, like with cobblestone streets and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And lots of vibrant colors and a bustling atmosphere. You can spend hours just wandering around.
Sounds fun. And is there good food there, too?
Oh, yeah, tons of restaurants. The guide recommends El Rincon Restaurante Mexicano for authentic Mexican cuisine.
Okay. I'm writing that down.
And they even have some Navajo specialties on the menu.
Cool.
Oh, and one more thing about Tlaquepaque free parking.
Nice. Always a plus.
So we've covered art, shopping, and food. But we can't talk about Sedona without mentioning the vortexes.
The vortexes, right. What are they again?
Well, they're these swirling centers of energy. Some people say they feel heightened spiritual experiences there, a sense of peace, or even creative bursts.
Interesting. So are they real? Like, is there any scientific evidence?
That's the big question. The scientific community isn't quite sure, but whether you believe in the mystical properties or not, the vortex sites themselves are really stunning.
Oh, okay. So worth a visit either way.
Definitely. And the guide lists 4 main vortex sites: Cathedral Rock, Airport Mesa, Boynton Canyon, and Bell Rock.
Okay. Any tips for visiting those spots?
Well, the guide recommends going during the week if you can to avoid the crowds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if you're looking for a challenging but rewarding hike, they say Cathedral Rock Trail is a must.
Okay. But is it, like, really difficult? Do I need to be an experienced hiker?
It is pretty steep, so make sure you have good footwear.
Got it.
And, one more thing I almost forgot.
Yeah.
You'll need a Red Rock Pass for parking at many of the trailheads.
Oh, right, the parking pass.
Yeah, but you can usually buy those nearby, so no worries.
So it sounds like Sedona's a pretty great place to hike, even if you aren't into the whole vortex thing.
Oh, absolutely. There are tons of trails weaving through those red rocks. They say it's a hiker's paradise.
Cool. What about mountain biking? I heard they have good trails there, too.
Yeah, the guide mentions that too. Hundreds of miles of trails for all skill levels. Apparently the Javelina Trail is a good one to start with.
Okay. And what about for more advanced riders?
Well, for a challenge, they recommend the Twin Buttes Loop. It's got some tough climbs and descents.
Sounds fun.
But they say you should always check trail conditions before you head out, just in case.
Good point.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're not into mountain biking, what else can you do? Besides hiking, I mean.
Well, Red Rock State Park is supposed to be incredible for hiking, too.
Yeah, it's Red Rock State Park, huh?
Yeah, and they say the wildlife there is amazing. You might even spot some javelinas or rabbits along the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list.
Check that out. Any other tips for hikers?
It's the usual. I mean, plenty of water and snacks, especially if you're planning to spend the whole day out there.
Yeah, good advice.
Right. And if you want to learn more about the park, they have guided hikes led by rangers.
Oh, cool. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. So after all that hiking and exploring, I'm guessing we'll be ready for some serious relaxation.
For sure. What do they have for that? Spas, massages?
Oh, yeah. Sedona's known for its incredible yoga retreats and day spas, perfect for unwinding and soaking up those Zen vibes.
Okay, yoga retreats. Tell me more.
Well, the guide says that Sedona's serene landscapes and, supposed energy of the vortexes make it an ideal setting for yoga and meditation.
Interesting. I never really thought of Sedona as a yoga destination.
Yeah. You can find a variety of studios downtown, and there are companies like Vita Pura Yoga that offer multi-day retreats with hiking, meditation, workshops, all that good stuff.
Wow. So is it like mostly for experienced yogis or can beginners do it too?
Oh, they have retreats for all levels, from beginners to advanced.
Okay. And if you're not into retreats, can you just drop in for a class?
Yeah, there are tons of studios that offer drop-in classes too.
Awesome. And I'm guessing you can always just do yoga on your own out in nature somewhere.
Exactly. You don't need a studio to find your zen in Sedona.
That's true.
The guide actually recommends Crescent Moon Picnic Site as a really peaceful spot for yoga or meditation. It's supposed to have stunning views of Cathedral Rock.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Just remember, you need that Red Rock pass to get in.
Right, that pass again.
Okay, so we've got yoga covered. What about spas?
Spas, yeah. Are there any good ones?
Oh, tons. Sedona is like a spa lover's dream. We mentioned L'Auberge Sedona earlier. They have a spa that's known for its tranquil ambiance and breathtaking views.
Okay. And do they do anything special? Or is it just like your standard spa treatments?
They use a lot of natural and locally sourced ingredients.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, and they offer all the usual stuff, massages, facials, body wraps. But they also have some unique treatments that are, how do they put it? Inspired by indigenous healing practices.
Wow, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of the relaxation stuff, but Sedona also has a rich history.
Oh, yeah. What kind of history are we talking about?
Well, long before it was a tourist destination, Sedona was home to ancient Pueblo dwellings built by Native American societies centuries ago.
Oh,
Yeah, and these remnants of the past offer a fascinating glimpse into Sedona's history.
cool.
The guide specifically highlights Tuzigoot National Monument.
Tuzigoot National Monument. Never heard of that.
It's a remarkably well-preserved village dating back over 1,000 years.
1,000 years. Wow. Who built it?
It was built by the Sinago people. You can still see the remains of their homes, ceremonial structures, even their irrigation system.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and you can learn all about their way of life, their agriculture, their artwork, their craftsmanship.
Sounds like a pretty amazing place.
Right. Yeah, and it's a good reminder that we're just one small chapter in a much larger story,
Yeah.
you know?
I know what you mean.
And it's important to remember that these sites are sacred, so if you encounter any ancestral pueblos that are off limits, observe them from a distance and leave them undisturbed.
Of course, yeah. Respect is key.
Exactly. And for anyone planning to visit Tuzigoot, it's open daily from 8:20 a.m. to 4:45 p.m., and admission is $10 for adults.
Good to know.
So besides ancient history, did you know that Sedona is one of the best places in the country to stargaze?
Really? I didn't know that. Why is that?
Arizona is known for its dark sky locations, places with minimal light pollution. And Sedona is no exception. When you get away from the city lights, the night sky is just incredible.
I bet.
Yeah. The guide recommends driving outside the city for the best experience or joining a dark sky tour.
Okay. Are there any tours that you would recommend?
They mention Sedona stargazing, which is supposed to be really good. They provide telescopes and expert commentary to help you navigate the night sky.
Oh, cool. What if you're more of a DIY stargazer?
Well, you can always head back to Crescent Moon Picnic Site. It's a popular spot for stargazing, too.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just remember to bring binoculars or a telescope if you have them, and check the lunar calendar for optimal viewing conditions.
Good tips. So we've got ancient ruins, stargazing. What else is there?
Oh, we've only scratched the surface.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's so much more to explore, but we'll have to save that for next time.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. Well, have you heard about the pink Jeep tours?
Oh, yeah. Those are like classic Sedona, right?
Yeah. Over 60 years of experience taking visitors on off-road adventures.
I always kind of assumed those tours were for like real thrill seekers?
Well, they actually cater to everyone. They have like scenic drives
Oh, okay.
and also those more like adventurous, bumpy rides through the red rocks.
Oh, I see. So you can choose your level of intensity.
Yeah, exactly. And they even have tours that are specifically designed for families with kids.
Oh,
Yeah, with gentler routes and guides who are really good at, explaining things about the area.
nice. So for a first-timer, is there one tour you would recommend?
The Broken Arrow tour is pretty popular.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
It takes you through some pretty challenging terrain. Steep inclines, descents.
Okay.
But the views are supposed to be amazing.
All right, so pink Jeep tours. Noted.
Huh.
But before we get too far off track, can we circle back to the art scene for a sec?
Sure. What did you want to talk about?
You mentioned Lakapak Arts and Shopping Village earlier, and I'm kind of fascinated by this idea of a space that's inspired by traditional Mexican markets.
Yeah, it's really unique. They've done a great job of capturing that kind of vibrant, bustling market atmosphere.
Yeah, and what kind of art can you find there?
All sorts of stuff. Local and regional artists. You'll find traditional Native American pottery and jewelry,
Okay.
and then also contemporary paintings, sculptures, glasswork, you name it.
Oh, wow. So it's like a mix of everything.
Yeah, it's a great place to browse. And then there are all the boutiques and shops, selling handcrafted stuff, imported textiles. It's really a shopper's paradise.
And you mentioned there's good food there too, right?
Oh, yeah, tons of great restaurants.
Right.
We've talked about El Rincon Restaurante Mexicano before.
Right.
They really focus on fresh, local ingredients, and the dishes are packed with flavor.
Okay, well, remind me what's so special about their food.
Well, they have all the classic Mexican dishes, of course, but they also have some unique specialties, like their slow-roasted pork with achio paste
Okay.
and their blue corn enchiladas. And they even have some traditional Navajo dishes on the menu, too, if you're feeling adventurous.
That's awesome. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about those vortexes.
Okay, what about them?
Well, I'm still a little fuzzy on the details, like, how are they supposed to work? What are some of the different theories people have?
It depends who you ask, really. Some people believe it's all about electromagnetic energy, like that the Earth's energy is stronger in these spots.
Mhm.
Others connect the vortexes to ley lines.
Ley lines, what are those?
They're like these hypothetical lines of energy. They're supposed to like crisscross the globe, connecting sacred sites and places of power.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty esoteric concept.
Interesting.
And then, of course, there are those who believe that the vortexes are simply, places of natural beauty and power
Right.
that have been considered sacred by indigenous cultures for centuries.
So, like, it's not necessarily about some measurable energy force, but more about the feeling or the significance that people have attributed to those places over time.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. You can approach the vortexes from whatever perspective resonates with you.
I like that. So we've talked about the 4 main vortex sites: Cathedral Rock, Airport Mesa, Boynton Canyon, and Bell Rock. Are they all kind of the same, or do they each have a different vibe?
They definitely each have their own unique energy and personality, so to speak.
Okay, so tell me about them. What are the main differences?
Well, Cathedral Rock is probably the most iconic,
Yeah,
with those towering spires.
I've seen pictures. Yeah.
It's a pretty challenging hike to the top,
Right.
but the views are incredible.
What about Airport Mesa?
Airport Mesa is a good option if you want a shorter hike.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty easy to get to the top.
Okay.
And you get those panoramic views of Sedona and the whole valley.
So it's like more accessible for people who maybe aren't up for a super strenuous hike?
Exactly. And then there's Boynton Canyon. That one's known for its kind of peaceful, serene beauty.
Okay.
It's a little more secluded,
Yeah.
more peaceful than some of the other vortex sites. A lot of people go there for meditation and quiet reflection.
That sounds nice. And what about Bell Rock? I feel like that one is pretty popular too.
Yeah, Bell Rock is that massive bell-shaped formation.
Hmm.
And it's supposed to have a very strong masculine energy.
Interesting.
A lot of people go there for rock climbing
Oh, okay.
and hiking. And a lot of people say they feel a sense of grounding and strength when they visit.
So it's like a different kind of energy than Boynton Canyon.
Yeah, definitely. More grounding, less ethereal, maybe.
Okay, cool. So there's a vortex for every mood, I guess.
I guess so.
Speaking of moods, I'm curious about the wellness scene in Sedona.
Wellness.
Yeah. We talked about yoga earlier, but what other kinds of like wellness experiences are popular there?
Oh, all sorts of things.
Like what?
Well, I mean, obviously they have the traditional spas and massage therapy,
Okay, yeah.
but they also have more like alternative therapies.
Like what?
Energy healing, sound baths, crystal therapy, all that kind of stuff.
Wow. That sounds pretty intense. So it's like a real hub for spiritual seekers and wellness enthusiasts.
Yeah, definitely.
We mentioned those multi-day yoga retreats earlier. Can you tell me a little bit more about what those are like?
Sure. They offer a variety of retreats for different levels.
Okay.
So there are beginner-friendly ones, but also more advanced programs that incorporate hiking and meditation,
Oh, wow.
workshops on personal growth and mindfulness, things like that.
And I'm assuming they all take place in like beautiful natural settings.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're surrounded by the beauty and the energy of Sedona the whole time.
That sounds amazing. And what about for people who aren't interested in, committing to a whole retreat? Are there options for those who just want to like drop in for a class?
Oh, tons of studios offer drop-in classes
Oh, great.
for all levels.
Perfect.
And of course, you can always just find a quiet spot in nature and practice on your own.
Right.
We talked about Crescent Moon Picnic Site earlier.
Yeah.
That's a really popular spot for yoga and meditation.
Makes sense. Okay, so after all that yoga and meditation, let's say we're ready for a spa day.
Sounds good to me.
Are there any like must-try spas in Sedona?
Albert Sedona has a really great spa.
Oh, yeah, we mentioned that one before.
It's known for being very luxurious and tranquil.
Yeah.
And they have a really holistic approach to wellness.
What does that mean?
Well, their treatments are designed to, nurture both the body and mind. They use a lot of locally sourced ingredients.
Like what?
Red clay, desert botanicals, things like that.
Okay.
They have all the usual stuff like massages and facials, but they also have some unique treatments that are inspired by indigenous healing practices.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
What about any other spas?
There's Mia Maine. It's a destination spa located in Boynton Canyon.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
It's a little more secluded
Okay.
and exclusive than some of the other spas.
Yeah.
But it's known for having really immersive wellness programs
Cool.
and a strong connection to Native American traditions.
Okay, so 2 spas to add to the list. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the food scene. We've already talked about Mexican food and wine, but what other culinary delights does Sedona have to offer?
Sedona has a surprisingly diverse culinary scene.
Really?
Oh, yeah, you can find everything from, casual cafes and pubs to fine dining restaurants.
Oh, wow. Any standout restaurants you'd recommend?
If you're looking for something really special, Mariposa Latin-inspired grill is amazing.
Okay.
It's pooched on a hillside, so you have those panoramic views of the Red Rocks.
Oh, wow.
And the cuisine is a blend of Latin American flavors with a southwestern twist.
Sounds fancy.
It is, a little bit.
What about, like, more affordable options?
Oh, they have those too.
Like what?
The Hideaway House is a local favorite,
Okay.
known for its burgers, sandwiches, salads, that kind of thing.
The, like, classic American fare.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want something a little more unique, the Lote Cafe is really good.
What kind of food do they have?
They specialize in Mexican street food,
Oh, cool.
but elevated Mexican street food.
Okay, sounds good. So we've talked about respecting indigenous cultures when visiting ancient sites like Tuzi Gut. But are there other ways that visitors can be mindful of, the indigenous history and heritage of Sedona?
Yeah, that's a really important point. I think it's crucial to remember that Sedona is located on land that has been inhabited by indigenous people for thousands of years.
Right, of course. But what does that mean for visitors? Like, how can we be more respectful?
Well, for starters, it's helpful to learn about the history and culture of the tribes that have lived in this area.
Okay, that makes sense.
The Yavapai, the Apache, the Hopi. There are some great resources online and at the local museums.
What else can we do?
Be mindful of how you interact with the land. Remember that this land is sacred to indigenous people, so, treat it with respect. Stay on designated trails, don't disturb any natural features, and pack out everything you pack in.
Yeah, that's just good practice for anyone visiting a natural area, really.
Exactly. And if you're interested in learning more about indigenous perspectives on Sedona, there are some great organizations that offer guided tours and educational programs led by indigenous guides.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really great way to experience Sedona from a different perspective.
So we've covered hiking, biking, yoga, spas, dining, and now a little bit about the history and culture of the area. What else is there to do in Sedona? Anything we haven't talked about yet?
Have you heard about the sunsets in Sedona?
I have heard they're pretty incredible. Is that true?
Oh yeah, they're famous for a reason. And one of the best ways to experience the Sedona sunset is to take a hot air balloon ride.
Oh, wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, imagine floating above those red rocks, watching the sky change colors. It's magical.
Okay, hot air balloon ride at sunset. Noted. What about, like, any hidden gems? Places that most tourists don't know about?
Have you ever heard of the Amitabha Stupa in Peace Park?
No, I don't think so. What is that?
It's a Buddhist stupa. It's basically a monument that represents enlightenment and peace.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
where is it?
It's on a hillside overlooking West Sedona. And it's surrounded by this beautiful garden, walking paths, meditation areas. It's very peaceful.
Sounds amazing. What can you do there? Like, what do people typically do when they visit?
Well, the stupa itself is pretty striking.
Okay.
It's white with a golden spire,
Uh-huh.
and it's decorated with all these colorful prayer flags.
Okay.
People go there to meditate,
Okay.
walk the labyrinth,
Right.
or just enjoy the atmosphere.
Cool. Okay, so if you had to give someone just one piece of advice for their first trip to Sedona, what would it be?
That's a tough one. But I would say make sure you see a Sedona sunset.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that before. What's the best way to do that?
There are so many options.
Like what?
You could hike to a high point, like Airport Mesa,
Okay.
watch the sun go down over the red rocks,
Yeah.
or find a quiet spot along Oak Creek,
Right.
listen to the water as the sky changes color,
That's nice.
or, go all out and book that hot air balloon ride.
Okay, now you're just making it hard to choose.
Sorry.
Well, it sounds like I'm going to need to plan a return trip to Sedona just to fit everything in.
You probably will.
Well, thanks so much for sharing all this with us. You've given us so many great ideas. I know our listeners are going to be inspired to plan their own Sedona adventures.
My pleasure. I love talking about Sedona.
And to our listeners, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore even more of Sedona's wonders, including a closer look at the Chapel of the Holy Cross.
All right, so we're back, and we're still diving deep into Sedona. And I gotta say, I'm pretty much sold at this point. Like, I'm ready to book that trip.
Yeah, it's a pretty magical place.
We've talked about the vortexes, the art, the spas, all that good stuff. But now I want to hear about those iconic landmarks. The things you just, have to see when you're in Sedona.
Okay, well, you can't talk about Sedona landmarks without mentioning the Chapel of the Holy Cross.
Oh, yeah, the chapel. That's the one built right into the red rocks, right?
I've seen pictures, and it's just so dramatic. Like, how did they even build that?
It's a pretty amazing feat of architecture.
Yeah, tell me about it. Like, what's the story behind it?
It was designed by this woman named Marguerite Brunswick Stout.
Okay.
And she was actually a student of Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, wow, okay.
And there's this story that she got the inspiration for the chapel from the Empire State Building.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently she visited New York in the 1930s
Okay.
and was so impressed by the skyscraper that she, envisioned a similar structure but with a more spiritual focus, set amidst the red rocks.
That's so cool. So this masterpiece in the desert was inspired by, like, a skyscraper in Manhattan.
Yeah, pretty wild, right?
That's amazing. Okay, but back to the chapel itself. What can people expect when they visit?
Well, the setting is just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's perched on this, rocky outcrop with panoramic views of the red rocks.
Yeah.
And the architecture is amazing, too.
Okay.
It's very minimalist, very modern,
Yep.
but it somehow blends perfectly with the natural landscape.
That makes sense. Like, it's almost like it's part of the rock formation itself.
Yeah, exactly. And inside, it's very simple, very serene. There's a large cross that kind of dominates the space.
Okay.
And then the floor-to-ceiling windows give you those amazing views. It's a really powerful space.
Okay. I can only imagine it must be so peaceful to just sit there and, soak it all in.
Definitely.
Now, we talked about the vortexes earlier, and you mentioned that some people think they're connected to lie lines. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what are lie lines?
So lie lines are these hypothetical lines of energy
Okay.
that some people believe crisscross the earth,
Right.
and they connect sacred sites and places of power.
Oh, okay.
It's an old idea, and it comes from a lot of different spiritual traditions.
I see. So how do the vortexes fit into that?
Well, some people believe that the vortexes in Sedona are actually located at the intersections of these light lines,
Oh, okay.
which is why they're thought to have such powerful energy.
Interesting. It's pretty amazing how all these different ideas and beliefs kind of like come together in Sedona.
Yeah, it's a very unique place.
So besides those like big famous landmarks, are there any hidden gems in Sedona? Places that most tourists maybe don't know about?
There are definitely some off-the-beaten-path spots that are worth checking out.
Like what?
Have you ever heard of the Amitabha Stupa in Peace Park?
No, I don't think so. What is that?
It's a Buddhist stupa.
A stupa.
Yeah, it's basically a monument
Okay.
that symbolizes enlightenment and peace.
Oh, wow.
And it's located on this hillside overlooking West Sedona.
Okay.
And it's surrounded by this beautiful garden with walking paths and meditation areas.
Oh, that sounds lovely. What do people usually do there?
Well, the stupa itself is pretty impressive.
Okay.
It's white with a golden spire, and it's covered in all these colorful prayer flags.
Cool.
People go there to meditate, walk the labyrinth, or just enjoy the peaceful atmosphere.
Sounds really nice. All right, so before we wrap up, I have to ask, if you could give someone just one piece of advice for their first trip to Sedona, what would it be?
Hmm, that's a tough one. But I would say make sure you experience the Sedona sunset.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that earlier. Like, what's the best way to see a Sedona sunset?
You have so many options. You
Yeah.
could hike up to a high point like Airport Mesa and watch the sun go down over the red rocks.
Okay.
Or you could find a quiet spot along Oak Creek and just listen to the water as the sky changes colors.
Yeah.
Or you could really go all out and book a hot air balloon ride.
Oh, man, so many choices. Okay, well, I think I'm definitely going to need to plan a return trip to Sedona just to fit everything in.
I think you will.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into Sedona.
Of course, it's been my pleasure.
It's been a really fun exploration, and to our listeners, thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed learning about Sedona, and we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Until next time.